We are ready to start. Good afternoon to all of you. The subject or the topic is very simple: ransomware. Anybody here who's faced a ransomware incident? Anybody out here who's faced a ransomware incident? Which ransomware? WannaCry was 2017. WannaCrypt. Okay. Yeah, it still lurks. You're right. Last week we saw WannaCrypt roaming around in one of our networks, our customers' network. WannaCry and Crypto Locker, you trying to use Eternal Blue, the old one. Okay, so it's ransomware is a problem that eventually every enterprise just does not want to face. Finally, it is about business continuity. It is about your business, and this is one problem which directly impacts your organization's business. It impacts like what we say is CIA: confidentiality, the data is exposed; integrity, your data is encrypted, so data is changed; availability, data is not available, your business is available. So it actually impacts everything, and typically any attack in the end, it kind of halts. We have seen ransomwares. No organization has come back alive out of a ransomware earlier than about 14 days. We all have seen AIMS. You kept following it. How many people followed the AIMS incident? 14 odd days, the government kept saying, next day, next day, next day, so many servers will be up, so many servers will be up. So this is the issue, this is the danger. And now we will try and cover this whole problem into these subjects. How is it disrupting businesses? The typical kill chain of a ransomware attack. We will also look at a typical, how the ransomware proliferates, and look at two real case studies. We really thought at the end of it, every audience wants to see how did the ransomware proliferate in your environment, and what was its typical cycle. And finally, we will also ask the audience how are they preventing or defending against a ransomware. We have a very knowledgeable set of panelists today. Dr. Mahesh Jutiawar, he's a senior VP IT. He handles both the infrastructure and he is the global CISO for Mastic. Mahesh, probably you could just raise your hand, and yeah, so we will come back one. You probably come and take a chair, or probably for the audience we'll just put it on the side so that we have enough time, enough space to see. Next, we have Anil. Anil is from Samsung Electronics. He is the general manager with Samsung Electronics. Anil Saraswat. Next, he's a very old friend of mine, Aditya Agarwal. He is country manager, NetWitness. And the fourth panelist is Samir Modi. He is vice president from K7 Security. K7 does a lot of work in the area of endpoint security. So these are four panelists. I'm Kinshuk. I'm from Tata Consultancy. I basically manage. When the house is on fire, me and my little team comes in and tries and extinguishes the fire. Moment the fire is over, containment, eradication. We don't ask too many questions. We say thank you very much. Get well soon. Make a get well plan and get back to business. So that we exit and terminate. So that is what is my job. Now, yeah. So overall, I will not dwell too much into this slide. This is just the behavior of a ransomware. Every ransomware malware is specific to type. It mutates, or it keeps changing its I would say simple way, hash. It exfiltrates data before encryption. Malware is associated, the ransomware is associated with a group. Every group has its own ransomware. While they do share, the tactics, but every ransomware is specific relates to a ransomware group. Extortion is a usual behavior after the organization is locked up, your data is not accessible or data is encrypted. Extortion starts. You will see your desktop has a lovely image saying that your network is encrypted, or you will have a text file in every folder. So that is the behavior, and then they will say, go to so and so site, Tor site, and download this, a Tor browser, and go to this site. So that's a typical behavior of extortion. They typically extort anything around 10 million and above. One ransomware attack in your whole life, if you do successfully, you are good. You don't need to work, 24/7 like the way we do. Strong encryption, they use at the lower level, they use symmetric. At the higher level, they encrypt the key with the asymmetric key. Every ransomware is specific for a target. They come, they dwell, and it is specific. The malware is also typically, in all the cases, compiled a couple of days before the ransomware incident. So it's targeted. Backup solution is two things it targets: backup solution and the anti-malware. Today, it was a sophisticated business, but today they have made it into toolkit, one-pager toolkit. There are ransomware as a service affiliates that sign up. I can join as an affiliate. I go to some. There are some, when you go to dark web, there are, you can go to these sites. They say, become an affiliate, and we will share the booty. That's how, that's how the model works. And they will tell you exactly, prescriptively, how to go about getting into the environment, dwelling in the environment, and to eventually meet their objectives. And then they have a system in which, the group, you're redirected to the group, and, and you pay up, or you negotiate, or you don't pay up. And then they extort you by saying, I will expose your data. So that is the behavior of a ransomware. So far, I think we are all clear. We have all seen this, people who have gone through this. So prevention is better. Trust me, everything happening in this conference, finally, if ransomware happens, business continuity is impacted. It is debilitating. There is data destruction. That is the exact word that I will use to ransomware. I will now request Mahesh to talk about what is the business exposure. Finally, it is protecting a business. It is about an organization. He will typically talk what is the exposure of a 10,000 employee organization. Mahesh.
Yeah, thanks, Kinshuk. If you look at it today, we are living in a virtual world, right? Hybrid, virtual, all those things have come up, and this is where we have transferred. If you typically look at it, the email was earlier also it was on the same volume. We interact around in a 90 days, 20 million emails get exchanged, right? So the number of emails, attachment, files are going to be in the different ways. And the meetings, typically if you see it, 180,000 people are participating in meeting using different platforms. This is again the practical data which we have experienced over a period of last 2 years with us and customers. And what is the data exchange? So there are around 30 TB of data which has been uploaded or downloaded. So 20% contribute to upload. That means that 80% of 30 GB is being downloaded by our users. That's a world which we are living in. How many sessions? 5 million sessions in 90 days. And typically users visit around 62,000 websites, out of which, and around 10,000 applications. So if you look at the typical software industry and all, this is the volume of data which we are accessing. And what is the risk which we carry? We carry a risk of, if you look at the 20 million emails, 3.5, which is 18% of emails, are spam emails which is getting blocked, right? And if you typically look at a 62,000 website which our users are visiting, 1,000 websites are malicious, which has been hosted for the malicious activities. typically if you look at, again on the malware, if you look at all the 38,000, 40,000 malwares are being protected at the gateway, right? And we also do a lot of surveys on, typically on spam awareness, continuously on a monthly basis, quarterly basis. Ranges between 5 to 10% of users submit their password in the spam awareness. So we are in a world where 30 TB of data is being exchanged. Around 15 to 20% are malicious kind of thing, which is email platform, could be around 5% in the websites. So this is the world we are living. This is what our exposure is being. So one, the more we are adopting onto the virtual IT world of it, more we are becoming digital. We are automatically converting into a digital. Second, that's where the hackers or the malicious users are trying to attack, and this is the exposure which we have got. So this is where we stand today. This is how the volumes are being increased. This is how it has been translating. That's how even a one malware in any of these platforms, maybe a malware coming in files or website, malicious file getting into malicious site getting access. So you have 5 to 10% of your users are sitting who can be who are easily targeted by this. If this happens, many times we don't know what is happening, and the malicious activity is already happening within our network. So this is what I wanted to cover as part of the typically what is the volume of data which is coming in, and what is the risk which we are seeing in the industry perspective.
Thanks, Mahesh. So you now see what is the business exposure or the attack surface of a typical enterprise. You just need one door into the environment, one access, and thereafter, you can easily dwell in the environment and execute what you believe is your end goal. I'll now request Anil. Anil is from Samsung to talk little bit about of a typical kill chain of a ransomware execution. How does a threat actor or adversary go about doing his work? We have obviously everything has a process. Everything has a process. In our daily life. So how does a threat actor? What is this process?
Yeah.
Or what is this procedure?
So thank you, Kinshak. So we, the business perspective we have got from Mr. Dr. Mahesh. So now I'll talk about the kill chains. So there are popularly two kill chain tactics which are available. One is Lockheed Martin and other one is MITRE kill chain. So this kill chain is a well documented set of tactics and techniques which are available. So there are 14 tactics in MITRE attack framework and more than 224 techniques which are available, and that can lead to any kind of successful proliferation, exploitation. So I'll walk you through this. So that starts from your reconnaissance phase, where they gather the information about the victim's host, organizations, all those things. Then they go to the development, resource development, we call before launching the attack. They prepare for the attack, and they gather compromise your credential through your social credential or your email credentials, all those things. Then they go for initial access like footholding, and that called the drive-by compromise. They may host a website which you visit, may compromise a browser and give a platform to put foothold. Then comes to execution, where they hook up your system, and then where the adversary will have a platform to launch the malicious content to your environment. Then we have a persistence. Once execution is done, then there's a persistence which every hacker or adversary want. They want to overcome all the hurdles. So even if you reboot, change your credential, anything happens, they still have access to your system, hooked up that. And post that, your privilege of escalations. So where adversary moves from normal privilege to high level of permission, they can roam and have access to restricted systems as well. And then post privilege operation, you have a defensive evasion. that's a very tactful thing where the attacker want to hide, work in stealth mode till the compromise happens. So nobody should able to detect them, identify them, to take action to prevent them. And post that you have a credential access where your hacker or adversary steals credentials, let it be a domain, local admin, domain admin, enterprise admin, whatever the level they have, then the discovery happens, what kind of environment you have, what kind of systems you have. So they adversary listen, observe, then orient themselves before they attack the ransomware. And then you have a lateral movement. So lateral movement is like moving in an environment. Now, once they got the credentials, they become legitimate users from the access perspective. Though they are not, but once they have got hold of it, the system cannot, hold this thing. And lateral movement, they move from one system to another system, and then collection to find out what is available, what they need to do, which system they need to infect, which they do not. Okay, because they will figure out what is the crown jewel in your network, and then command and control, where the compromised system try to establish connection with your parent or mother or listener or command and control. Okay, and their port knocking happens through this, and you have a exploitations where your data gets moved from your network to outside network. It may be a cloud storage, it may be any other method through which your data moves away. And finally, the impact, where, as Mr. Kunshik already described, the backup is one of the main target of this adversary, to destroy that, encrypt it, so that you do not have any other thing except the adversary becomes a backup, right? So it's like a land and then expand, and the radius, a blast of radius becomes more and more. So now I will go through this process, which you can see that the adversary already got credentials to move in, then he moves further and escalate privileges, and then creates more accounts, and then have discovery, and then lateral movement from system to system. It comes back, goes forward, and that all happens, and then collection, command and control setup, and finally having the exploitation and encrypting the system or this thing. The sequence which you see may not be sequential in this. It may happen, because various threat actors have, or threat groups have different approaches, different set of malwares, so they may use different tactics and techniques to accomplish their target. Ultimately, they want to halt, they want to achieve the target, encrypt, destroy, or deform, deface your websites, and ask for the money or any other purpose which they have. So that's all I have from myself.
Thanks, thanks, Anil. So I'll now request Aditya. Aditya is a well known from NetWitness. Aditya, can you take us over a typical attack?
Yeah.
Before a ransomware finally is or the enterprise is encrypted.
Thanks, Kinshuk and Anil. I think a lot of points have been covered by these two. But typically, first thing is we need to understand a lot of effort goes into a ransomware attack. It is not a one-day job that you think about doing a ransomware attack. A lot of hard work done by the attacker before he does the ransomware attack. Second is, we should not be under the impression that yes, we will not be attacked. We should always be on our toes. Whatever tools we have, techniques we have, we should still try and see that if we are under attack, what happens? What will we do? So that approach should always be there. So now talking about ransomware, why is it different? Even though it is one of the oldest techniques, but there are so many variants. You think you have understood the earlier ransomware attack, the next one is totally different from the earlier one. So it is important to understand what are the types of variants that are possible in a ransomware attack. So from a steps perspective, the first step is to get into the organization. An attacker first needs to get in. And now all that is become very, very easy for attacker. You can buy the credentials from a dark web or through a phishing mail or through any other method. It's very easy to get into a network. Once you get into that network, you drop your malware on the endpoint. Once the malware is downloaded on the endpoint, it is as good as working for you. And the sad part is, end user doesn't even know that his machine is being used to launch the ransomware attack. That's the first step, getting entry into the organization. Second step is horizontal movement. Once you get in, you need to find out the target, which are the critical assets, which are the business applications, where is the backup, so that you know when to hit at the right moment. So horizontal movement within the network to find out the critical things is very important. Once you have that, you become a legitimate user, as good as you and me. You have access to everything. You try and move up the chain to get privileged access, so that you know that these are the crown jewels and you can data from them. So once you have the privilege escalations, you try and exfiltrate the data. That is, you contact your command and control center and see what is the data you can exfiltrate from this organization. Next comes destroying the backup. The intent of the attacker is very clear: to ensure your business is not running, it doesn't continue. So any backups that you take, any shadow files that you have, it will destroy all those to ensure that your business is disrupted. And finally, it encrypts. It finds out the original files that are there, encrypts that data, and the final step is he asks for ransom. So you are like, your entire setup is under the control of an attacker, and you don't know what is the next step. So the key point is in this entire slide is, attacker is spending a lot of time in your network. Early detection, how fast can you detect that somebody is in your network, is the key. Over to you, Kinshuk.
Thanks, Aditya. Yeah, absolutely. See, finally he extorts, he holds you hostage. He sends you threatening mails. He says, if you don't pay, I will retaliate. Some of the, I would say, they, what do I say? They use translators to translate one language to another, and their emails that you get from them are so rustic. It is not very good English. If anybody has seen through them, we have encrypted your, but it's a very tough English that they write. But they are criminals. At the end of it, they are criminals. They've only got one aim: money. You pay them 60%, they will give you the keys. Or some of the keys will work, some of the keys will not work. I have had one case in which we had to, pay up a certain money. About 2 years back, this incident happened. We did get back some of our data. Some of the keys did work. But at the end of it, it is serious stress, because nothing in your organization is working. In certain cases, they have gone into your Active Directory, domain controller, they have changed the password of your domain admins, and they have locked you out. You do not have access to your own central database of identity. Users, computers, groups. What do you do then? Where do you start from? We have Samir. Samir is, like I always tell him, Samir is from an anti-malware company with a lot of background on, on endpoint security. Samir Modi is from K7 Security. He's a VP with K7. Samir, if you could take us through one case study that you have seen in an enterprise. Over to you, Samir.
Thanks, Kinshuk. And all my colleagues have already mentioned some of this, but I think it's important for us to focus on, a real world sort of, attack that happened. And Kinshuk will tell you of another one, but I just thought, we'll start with a very simple case study here. So this actually happened to one of our customers, and we investigated what actually happened. And I'm just going to stand up for this. This bit where the ransomware actually runs, I think all of you will be very aware of what ransomware actually does. But what I want to focus on much more than that is what is happening right at the top over there. That is the most important thing in my opinion, because we know what happens when ransomware actually runs. You can't get your data back without paying, right? So how did it actually get into the network? So, Anil already talked about reconnaissance, and Aditya as well talked about reconnaissance. Here we have a situation where there's a server which is on the edge, right? It is actually connected to the internet, and it has got certain services. So that is, whatever it is supposed to be running, it is running that, but it has not been patched. So there are two issues here actually, because the first one is that the service is SMB, right? SMB is something used for transferring of files. Why is that exposed to the internet? That's point number one. And even worse than that, you have a situation where that service has not been patched. That means it has a known vulnerability which has been there for a long time. That means a weakness in the server, and the administrator has not put the patch. So what happens is there are these sort of sites, something called Shodan and other sites which are open source threat intelligence. What they do is they will scan the entire internet looking for certain markers, saying, oh, there is a service like this, it is running on this port. Let me now keep trying to bombard that with specially crafted network packets and see, can I get through? So in this case, yeah, they got through. Okay, so what happens next? So once they get through, they're able to get admin privileges. Remember now that you have an attacker who's got remote admin privileges. That means he's sitting probably in some other country, probably Russia or something, and he's got remote admin access to your network, okay? After that, what he does is he's going to create a couple of users, he's going to download more tools. That means he's creating new users on your domain, right? And they're all, as Aditya says, they're now all legitimate. They're all you, because it's within your network, okay? Now he's downloading some tools, right? And some of these tools are, they're not malicious in themselves. They come as part of a toolkit, right? In this case, they use Process Hacker. Process Hacker is a tool that can basically run in a very high privilege. It's called kernel, right? And you can basically turn off anything else, including your security software. So that is what happened. So it's running from kernel. Kernel is like the highest privilege. So you're running a tool as admin, as kernel, and now you can turn off other stuff, right? And Kinshuk will talk about that in his case study as well. Similar, okay? And finally, once that has been done, you can obviously run whatever you like. Okay, now the point I want to make over here is that today is now in 2022. This attack is actually from 2019. What that should tell you is that the attack, the mechanism or the blueprint for the attack, so to speak, is still the same. They may use different tools, they may use different ways specifically of getting in. But the ransomware problem has been around since that time. I mean, not to 2019, it's actually from 2013. I remember when I was in Germany, I found out that at a conference that there is this new thing called CryptoLocker, and it's actually devastating, right? CryptoLocker for me is the mother of all ransomware, right? So it's kind of that kind of thing. It's actually been around for a long time, and today we're still talking about the same thing, which means that we need to fundamentally rethink how we fight back against ransomware. And for me, the key critical point is the one over there, right at the top. How do you prevent it getting in the first place? Because prevention is better than cure, right? Thanks.
Thanks, Samir. So this was one case study. I have one more case study. Any guesses? This is very, very recent. Last to last month. Okay, so we were lucky to have been involved. We don't handle, once again, as a disclaimer, I from TCS do not handle their security or their infrastructure. We were just incident response being asked by a sister company. But I haven't heard you. It's an Indian power company. It's one of our biggest or largest power company. It happened in October. There were two major high-profile ransomware attacks in the last 2 months. One was Safdarjung AIMS, and one was the second one. So this is 100% what happened. We do not know how he got the credentials. I have my head of my identity access management, COE, sitting here. He is nodding at me, but we couldn't figure it out. That means we don't know how he got initial access, He jumped in mid of September. The attack proliferated around 18 days. Mid of September, 18th of September, he entered we saw that whatever, when we went back to the activities of that ID involved in the whole ransomware attack. There were a couple of IDs. First, 18th of October onwards, he legitimately hopped in using username, password. First, VPN did not have multi-factor authentication. Legitimately came in. Did he get credential as a service? I do not know. He came in, one machine, two machine. He kept jumping around in our environment or in that environment using RDP and PSExec. PSExec is I don't know anybody has used PSExec here. It's a beautiful tool. It operates at the session 0 of your kernel. So the user doesn't know what's happening in his, on his thing. It's only if he's all the time looking at his event viewer or task manager, he can see PSExec service. But if a hacker is smart enough, he can change even the name of the service. Okay? Kept jumping around, one machine to another. Bloodhound for Active Directory reconnaissance. We found the Bloodhound dumps. That means he's done recon the output files. He kept running Mimikatz. As he went to every machine, Mimikatz is dumping credentials, LSAS process. Now he needs to escalate his privileges. Finally, he needs domain admin. That's all. In simple terms, he needs domain admin privileges. Not one, he needs a couple of them. And he kept running Cobalt Strike for controlling machines' persistence. And the circle went around for almost 10 days. It is easy to always talk backwards. Tumne kuch kiya nahi. There were 1,000 alerts which beeped. 1,000 alerts. But tell me, out here, everybody sitting here, we are all part of, let's say, an IT team or a security team. At one stage, when we come to know we are under attack, it is like I'm an ex-military guy. We are under, let's say, a forge is coming in. There is aircraft. There's, there is infantry. There are tanks coming in. At some stage, you have to really tell your CEO, boss, we are under attack. AD is compromised. Trust is lost. It is only a question of time when the citadel will fall. They failed to communicate. What failed? Process failed. It was not that it was not clear what was happening in their environment. All this circle which is happening was apparent as detections. They moved in, further consolidated. They set up a simple web server using Mongoose. In the first slide I said, every attack is little different. This is Hive ransomware. Hive leaks is the Tor site. First, there are two tasks that an attacker has to do. Kill antivirus, downgrade policy, and kill it. Downgrade policy so that he can't detect me, he can't detect my malware, and then destroy the database of the anti-malware. 2 SCPM servers were running, finished. Went into the domain controller, edited existing GPO to run 2 scheduled tasks. Simple. One to download the malware, and second one to execute the malware across all. He did a GP update before that, so that the policy proliferated to all hosts and endpoint. Malware was there on the end machines, and then a scheduled task kept running how many times the malware, and every time the malware executed, it deleted itself. We found in some machines that this whole process didn't work completely, so we could get hold of the final r.exe, which was known as tt.exe when it was sitting in the Mongoose. He was downloading, renaming, executing, And the threat actor was also very process oriented. A battalion of them came in. Somebody is running PS exec to see काम हुआ कि नहीं हुआ. That means to check whether systems are getting encrypted or not. The enterprise took 21 days. VPN is still not up. They don't trust VPN. VPN today is not up. Orders, work from office, work from environment. No remote. All applications have gone behind WAF. All servers have gone behind PAM, etc., etc. And there was a huge cleanup activity, huge. Because finally we failed in communicating end of September that we are under a debilitating attack which will bring you down. Your business will fall. Any questions? Okay. So now all of you understand how ransomware, what is ransomware, how ransomware proliferates, what is the kill chain, typical attack, Aditya talked, kill chain, Anil talked, Aditya talked about, few things. He talked about one, which used a particular unpatched vulnerability. It could be an application. Finally, you could use a normal, you could get a web shell from a exploitable application. It could be any method. All of you know how ransomware is. Now, I'm leaving the question to all of you. How will you defend against it? Anyone, everybody keep raising your hand. I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. First, yeah, Raja, Selva, what is your control?
Patching needs to be looked into in an organization. That is the most important one.
Okay, next, anybody?
Rule to be enabled actually, identify the suspicious traffic actually, and endpoint level, we need to enable the updated signature, SPT, IOSS and IOA, and perimeter level, we need to enable the
One by one at a time. Everybody, you give me one control, everybody. At the end of it, you have to protect your environment.
Identity management is the core.
Is the mother.
It is a mother of security if you are not touching your identity.
So your joiner, mover, lever.
If you are not controlling it, I think
You're dead.
other controls will be.
So here I'll tell you what. Now in that incident, when we sent out a general broadcast to all the employees of that energy company saying that on day 8 after the incident that we have had a cyber incident, our systems are down, this is why basically internal communication. Threat actor is responding from our M365 email to back to us, okay, saying ha 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 ha.
So one more thing, I think companies are more lenient towards the partners' identities because employee identity is being managed by HR. In any of the organizations.
So you're right. So your third party.
Third party identities are, on a loose.
Understood. Okay.
Because you can
I will move this question to others. Okay. So identity, joiner, mover, lever is one problem. Next, anybody else? Louder. Take the yeah.
Mike's over there.
Backup. So will I? So 100% backup. 3 backups. 2 media, immutable, 1 offline. Okay. Next. Louder, please. Okay, antivirus, he will always say antivirus, but there are other friends who will say EDR. Okay, next there. Okay, SOC. Okay, SOC. So your detection, but it shouldn't be like this. At the end of it, it shouldn't be like this that you get 1,000 detections, but you don't do anything about it. Okay, next. Threat intel, okay. But I'll be very honest, threat intel is important, but today threat intel is it has to be actionable. I'm getting so much of threat intel that it is humanly, while I know I will put it into my reference set, okay. I'll tell you one incident. I've had he is now doing a DNS query through a malicious website. It is hitting my internal DNS, sitting on my domain controller, going outside to my Google, I've blocked it in my firewall. Every 2 seconds, this query is being run. And somewhere we didn't realize that internal DNS sending out to external DNS for a malicious URL, it is somebody who inside, not 8888 or 8844. You understood? But it took us 4 to 6 hours to figure it out till we started shutting down subnets and say who is generating this 2-second traffic every 2 seconds calling its listener. So threat intel is important. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important, but yeah, it has to be part of our SOC input. Okay.
From a different perspective, I also feel one area important, that is encryption of critical information. If you are able to encrypt and through server data transition also should be encrypted is what I feel. That is also very important. So lateral movement can be actually detected at early stage. And of course, exfiltration also can be completely protected.
In that attack, Aadhaar, boards, PAN cards, engineering drawings, contracts, 74 gigs of data was on the dark web website exposed or as a part of disclosure. How much can you encrypt?
It's a CI data, it has to be encrypted.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, you have to encrypt. Okay, encryption, at least your databases have to be encrypted or your application databases have to be encrypted. But at the end of it, it is, you're only stopping one piece of the confidentiality, integrity and availability, the C part. But okay, so one control. Anybody else?
Roll back.
Okay, anybody else from the back? External attack surface management, your typo squatting domains, or your, or what is sitting, or your IDs compromised, LinkedIn breach, Yahoo breach, etc., etc. What else?
There's one more over there.
AI-driven XDR, perfect. XDR, EDR, whatever it's all taxonomy. He is my friend. He's from an anti-malware, and he says they are overselling it. Okay.
I actually understand machine learning, so.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else from there? Just speak up, sir. I can see your hand. Absolutely. Absolutely. Today morning, first question was user awareness. If you remember, that first session today morning in that first hall was, there was a lot of stress from the gentleman from my competing company in Infosys, but he talked about user awareness. It is important. Not that Infosys is important, but user awareness is important. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Any other thing? Phishing campaigns. Next. Multi-factor authentication at perimeter, at M365, at PAM, at your virtualization layer. Today, people are getting into your virtualization layer and deleting virtual machines. Okay, so we have got a.
It is also important to keep on testing your processes, because the initial couple of hours is very important for you to come up and running in terms of your business. If you're not testing your processes regularly and you don't know very well, that is also an important thing.
So planning. So your crisis management planning. Okay, incident, let's call it, whatever, incident management or crisis management planning. Perfect. So I think we have generally covered, we have got a fair idea of what it is. I will not talk about the last slide. Have we covered everything? If you don't have an asset inventory itself, nobody said. If you don't have, I have seen he's come and created a virtual machine. We have seen one PC jumping around in our network called user PC. It took us 18 days to figure out what is that user PC in South America. Anybody, anything else? Or any questions to the panelists?
One question, sir. In sir, two slides before, the exfiltration, how was the exfiltration done here? What the methodology of the exfiltration?
The malware itself over HTTP has taken out the data. So we have seen it on the proxy. We have seen it on the proxy. But in this case, Cisco ASA firewall logging level was 3, and we couldn't see the bytes transferred till the attacker told us that 450 gigs have been exfiltrated. We ourselves could not determine digitally. If you have tools like Stealth Watch, etc., those you can watch it whichever across whichever channel it is. But in this case, they didn't have adequate instrumentation. Any other thing? So we are back to this. Anybody else or any questions to the panelists specifically?
Question for me.
So why do you say that EDR is working and
Sorry, can you? I didn't say. Sorry, I didn't say the ADR is sort of worthless. I said it's been oversold. Okay, so let me explain this. I don't really want to get into that because it's like between competing companies and all that. But the fact of the matter is that what EDR is doing is it's actually just, or XDR, whatever you want to call it, all these acronyms coming from Gartner, let's say, right? So all it is actually doing is saying certain events, right? Events are going on, which in the security industry, we've been knowing about that for years, for decades. Okay, so these events are coming up, and you need to now put that in context, right? So the events are coming up, they need to be interpreted. It can be done by AI, right? But let me ask you, whoever's actually implemented this, do you not have a massive problem with false positives? The reason is that the context is important. What happened, in which order, from where did it come, what sort of, what was the source, what dropped, what was sort of executed. All of those things need to be done in a way which is coherent and it's done by a brain, right? It's got to get it right? And the core of that is something that sort of, traditional, what they call traditional AV, we've already done that. And traditional AV is not just about signatures. It's about behavioral detection. It's about sort of, heuristic detection at the execution level. It can be sort of, at the firewall level. It can be sort of, saying, okay, if I got something from this URL or I got it from this firewall and I've got this, the IP address from where it came, all of that can be basically tracked even in normal AV. It's just that with a lot of, some of my sales guys are also in the room from K7, so, they will understand this. You can basically sort of take a concept and you can sell it really well, okay?
We'll take the last question. Any last question to any of the panelists specifically? MITRE or the beginning from the business side, or Anil from the typical attack side. Any questions? So my last thing is, where are you in this journey? Your enterprise. I hope we are not in the last bucket. Trust me, we've seen CISOs come, they're very confident, but the day a thing like this happens, there's utter chaos and panic, and he says, kya kare? And many things are being said during those, I would say IR calls or MI calls, and there is no structure to it. If you just put a structure, okay, assess, keep assigning tasks to the various people, do this, revert, come back onto this bridge. So that's how incident response is typically orchestrated. But for these specific incidents, we will take it up how the IR was orchestrated in AISS 2023. So we've got something for the next, how the IR was executed. This is only how the attack was orchestrated. Thank you very much. Thank you.